One of the things that we should always recall about the ministry of Jesus is he was known as a healer, as one who cured people of their illnesses. And that comes into full view as we see the way that he deals with this sinful woman, deals with sin in the world. He comes not to condemn, but to heal. And that healing unfolds in a variety of ways that we see in this gospel text. We see that it is a healing needed in the separation that has been now created in her life from the rest of the community. She has to come at noon to get water from the well. The other women come early in the morning when the water is fresh and it's cool in the day. She comes in the heat of the day. And so sin, in some way, has broken the bonds, the social network, the community in which she lives in. It's important, I think, to keep that in mind, that Jesus comes to heal us in those areas in our life in which sin has separated us from one another, maybe through our anger, our gossip, ways in which we have used people in ways that in many ways demean them or demean ourselves. And what's interesting is that this woman is healed so much by the life-giving water that the Lord reminds her has been given to her, that she becomes the source of others believing in Jesus. That is what is so, I think, important to recognize. Jesus' healing turns everything around for her, to the point that a woman who is ostracized is now the center of attraction, bringing others to Jesus. But there's also another wound that needs to be healed in her life, and that is symbolized by the tepid water that she brings home every day. It is stale water. It's water that she brings home in the heat of the day. Her life is like that. Her life has become stale. And yet she discovers that great gift within her that Jesus tells her she's able to tap into, the grace of God, in which she discovers that she has a purpose about her life. And so it's in that moment in which she leaves the jar at the well that's so important. She's willing to leave behind that old life of a stale, tepid water that she has lived to this point by having 5 husbands. And so the demand for us today, as we think about how Jesus comes into our life to heal of our sinfulness and help us rediscover his grace within us that should spring up to the surface, to ask ourselves, what's the jar in our life? What is it that we need to leave behind? Is it the anger that we have in our hearts against someone, or the way in which we've disparaged others by our gossip, the false intimacies that we're involved in, or maybe a lackluster approach to our prayer and attendance at Mass where we become comfortable with it and realize at this moment how our lives have become stale, like that tepid water that the woman carried. Or again, it may be in the kind of greedy approach to life in which we ignore and become indifferent to the needs of others. Today the Lord asks us, do we want to be healed? Can we discover a new life within us of generosity, of forgiveness, of patience with others, so that we can leave behind the jar at the well as this woman does? That's so important for us today. This woman's heart was softened by the words of Jesus, and so must ours be. And so, as we heard in the psalm, if today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.